found any magic number as to how much you're exactly supposed to drink. And I deal with training law enforcement officers, recruits. I do a lot of physical training and oversee it and help with it. So we have to be very aware. We live in Texas. The summers get really hot and humid. So we're very aware of the hydration issues, and we really maintain that. And what we teach is if you're thirsty, you're probably already dehydrated. So again, waters, you have to have it, need it, okay? I haven't found any magic number, half gallon, 64 ounces. I haven't, 8 ounces a day, that's the same thing, 64. I haven't found any magic number, okay? But water is important. All right, now, let me see what my next slide is, I think. Okay, understanding fats. Talk about this, and I'm going to draw some of this stuff on the board. This is pretty cool to me. I can talk all day just about this stuff. All right. You know what? I may not have to draw it on the board. Saturated fats, here's the category. Saturated, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, and then we get into trans fats. All right? Trans fats and hydrogenated are in the same category. What does this mean? Okay. Very simply, fat, just like carbs, are made of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. Fat is the same thing, except being short, this molecule is going to go from here probably to the end of the hall. All right, if I was to draw this out, that is a fatty acid. It's that, those chains are that long. They have what's called single or double bonds to hydrogen. There's a difference. It makes a difference in how they react and interact with other substances, primarily oxygen. Oxygen is your friend. It's also your enemy. Oxidation is another fancy word for rusting. We want to reduce oxidation in our body. Certain substances increase oxidation. One of those things is glucose, is sugar. Just like if we heat it up in a pan, it gets sticky in our body. It's very reactive with oxygen. Our body stores glucose in 3 places I'll get to later, but one of them is the blood. It only stores about 5 grams in the blood, just a little bit, a teaspoon. It doesn't want a whole lot floating around. It doesn't want it interacting with oxygen any more than it has to. Okay? So, here we go. I'll leave that up there because I'm going to refer back to that. What makes a saturated fat, a mono, a poly, what makes it what it is? It's the double bonds or the single bonds to hydrogen. Okay? And it does make a difference. Saturated fat, animal fat, coconut oil is saturated fat. There are some plant-based saturated fats out there. Saturated fat, necessary for cellular health. They resist heat and oxidation. Okay, what does that mean? I'll show you. For a healthy cell wall, and I think I got a picture of a cell on this one. If not, you guys can imagine, or I'll draw on the board. A healthy cell wall needs saturated fat to maintain cell integrity. All right? Again, remember, we just didn't consume a lot of these processed vegetable oils up until about 100 to 150 years ago. Most of the fat in our diet was saturated fat. Okay? Our body's very well adapted to deal with saturated fat. Saturated fat, because every single bond to hydrogen in that fatty acid is a single bond. That's what makes it saturated. Because it's all single bonds, it's less reactive with oxygen. That is a good thing. That means stability, heat resistant. You can still break it down with heat, but it can handle higher heat. Okay? Now, what makes it a solid at a room temperature is because of the single bonds, the polarity, they repel each other, and essentially, these molecules, since they repel each other, they straighten out. They're a straight line. So they pack together very nicely. So at a room temperature, they stay solid. That's why saturated fat is usually a solid at room temperature, because of the molecular structure of that molecule. All right, now we get into, let me back up. Cell integrity, cell health. Healthy cell integrity, healthy stable cell wall, longer cell life. Longer cell life, longer life. Okay? You want good cell integrity. You want cells that are less reactive with oxygen, okay, that are not going to degrade or break down, all right? Saturated fat comes into play. Our body uses saturated fat in every single cell of the body. It wants saturated fat. If it does not have saturated fat, it will take whatever fat it can get, even the more reactive fatty acids, and that can be a problem. Okay, so saturated fat, single bonds, less reactive, handles heat better, great for cell integrity. Cell integrity is great for us. All right, does that mean you can go out and eat all the saturated fat you want? No. Here's what I would argue, and here's the argument that I get, and I enjoy these debates. Saturated fat, too much is going to cause this and that. I would say, yeah, under certain circumstances. One of those, if you eat too many carbs. The other is, what is your source of saturated fat? Is it from commercially raised beef? Remember, the health profile of commercially raised beef or commercially raised meats is completely different than that of grass-fed or wild-caught, okay? So, here we go. Monounsaturated, it's the most abundant in nature. It's found in animals, in animal fat. It's found in avocados, nuts, and plants. Canola oil is actually very high in monounsaturated fatty acid. All right? Cold-pressed canola oil, I think, is great. Got to keep it in the refrigerator, though. Processed, commercially refined canola oil, I won't touch, because it's still, anything that was healthy in it is gone. It's already been broken down. It's already rancid. All right? Monounsaturated fats, one of the benefits, I want to say it's February 2009, American Heart Association came out with a study. They said that monounsaturated fat does increase HDL, high-density lipoprotein. Most of us probably know or have heard that that's the good cholesterol. We're going to talk about cholesterol. So, in a nutshell, monounsaturated fat, it's beneficial, okay, as far as that goes. Now, what makes it mono? One, double bond to hydrogen. So what does that do to the molecule? It puts a kink in it. It bends it. So now you have this molecule at a room temperature. It doesn't fit together as well, so it's usually liquid at a room temperature. For example, extra virgin olive oil. Okay? Extra virgin olive oil is very high in monounsaturated fats. One of the reasons extra virgin olive oil has a good shelf life is because if it's extra virgin, it's cold pressed, all the stuff that's good in it, the antioxidants, substances called polyphenols, they're potent antioxidants, they're still there. They reduce oxidation. That's why you don't have to keep it in the fridge. You can keep it away from light, but keep it in the pantry. Okay? Extra virgin olive oil is great. It's not just the monounsaturated fatty acids. The olives themselves are very, very high in some of these antioxidants. Okay? So here we go. That's monounsaturated. Now, is there anything bad about monounsaturated? Well, because it has a double bond, it's a little more reactive with oxygen than saturated fat. It's not going to handle high heat as well. Can you cook with olive oil? Sure. What I like to do is if I'm cooking on anything that's low heat, maybe medium or less, I'll use olive oil. I just don't cook with it anything high. I don't fry anything in olive oil. So put it on salads, whatever. Now, you guys can probably take a guess. You'll be right. Polyunsaturated fatty acids. Let me write this down. Because I'll forget. Yeah, I know the other one. Okay, polyunsaturated fatty acids. Many double bonds to hydrogen. I can put a whole bunch in here. What does that do to the shape of the molecule? It puts all these kinks in it. It doesn't fit together very well. So it's liquid at a room temperature. Oh, and by the way, like olive oil, it's usually liquid at a room temperature. Not usually, it should be. But if you put it in the fridge, it'll begin to coagulate. It'll start coming together, okay? Polyunsaturated fatty acids, even if you put them in the fridge, they stay liquid. All right? So here's what's going on with polyunsaturated fatty acids. Polyunsaturated fatty acids, again, many double bonds. That's cool. It's okay. Because there's many double bonds, they're very reactive with oxygen, okay? They oxidize easier. They do not hold up to high heat or heat in general. Okay? Most sources of omega-3 in the plant world, if we cold press them, they're accompanied with antioxidants, whether that's vitamin A, vitamin E, tocopherols, polyphenols. It has that stuff that helps reduce the oxidation. When we process vegetable oils, we get rid of all that stuff, so it's even more reactive. It's less protected. And it's, again, it's already broken down, and then we cook with it and break it down further. Okay? So, polyunsaturated fatty acids, I don't cook with. I stay away from vegetable oils. Okay? And most vegetable oils are very high in omega-6. Now, I'll put this on the board. Omega-6, omega-3. All right? This one is, I'll abbreviate it, LA, and this one is ALA. All right. If it's in the plant-based world, it exists in these forms. If it's in the animal world, meat, it exists in this form, arachidonic acid. There's a couple others. That's the primary one. That's the big one that signals inflammation. Okay? In plant world, it exists here. Animal world, it exists here. Something called DHA and EPA. Okay? DHA is critical for brain development, neurological function, myelin sheath repair. That's basically the insulation or wiring of our nervous, or the insulation of the wiring of our nervous system. Okay? Very important for child development. And in baby formula, in probably the last 3 or 4 years, I've been seeing more and more of it. It'll say now with DHA, because people are catching on to that. So people, it must be good. And I'm sure it is. But DHA is it's always been in there. It's just people are advertising now. DHA, brain development. Okay, I'll just keep it simple, leave it there. EPA, that is the one that is the anti-inflammatory omega-3. That is the one that works in conjunction or kind of balances the arachidonic acid. All right? EPA, anti-inflammatory. These two always come together. Brain development. DHA is really important. Where in nature might we find DHA? What do babies drink when they're really young? What kind of milk? Breast milk. Nature's kind of figured this stuff out. Breast milk's very high in DHA. Okay? All right. Now, so this is a great goal, 1-to-1. Keeping your omega-6 to omega-3 1-to-1. Most meats that are not commercially raised are very, very close to this. All right? And that's how most of us used to be as far as the kind of foods we're eating. Now, what can we do to bring inflammation down and bring some of the anti-inflammatory properties of the omega-3 into the mix? Here's some options. These are options that you guys can decide. If you can consume grass-fed meat every now and then, wild-caught salmon, maybe the poultry, it has the pastured stuff that's allowed to eat the bugs. That's great. It is the omega-3 content and omega-6 are pretty close in ratio, but the omega-3, the overall content's not that high, but the omega-6 isn't that high either. But so you can eat those kind of foods. That's great. The availability of those is getting better. They're more common in whole food markets. You can actually go to specialty stores and get this stuff. It's more and more common, so they're getting easier to find, but they're more expensive. Now, another thing you can do is identify sources of omega-6 in the diet, if you want to, and bring that out. Reduce some of the inflammatory markers. Where can we do that? Well, one source, the biggest one I'll focus on, is processed vegetable oils. That's a big one. Okay? By avoiding those, we can bring our total omega-6 load significantly lower. Now, the other side is we can start bringing our omega-3 levels up. How do we do that? We can take flaxseed oil, but remember, since it's in the vegetable state, we only get about 8 to 10% usable omega-3 from that, so not as efficient. Or we can supplement with fish oil. Now, there's different qualities of fish oil, and I'll share with you some of the ones that I take and the ones that I like. But it's important to note, if you decide to take fish oil, It's not the milligrams on the front of the bottle that you need to read. It's the milligrams of DHA and EPA on the back of the bottle. For example, I took this class, I think I'm going to start taking some fish oil and cut back on the vegetable oil. Sounds good. Hey, there's a capsule right there, 1,000 milligrams fish oil. Cool, I can take a couple of those a day. It's not 1,000 milligrams of omega-3. You have to read the label. Most of the ones that are less expensive, that are 1,000 milligrams, contain about 320 milligrams of DHA and EPA combined. Meaning to get about 1,000 milligrams is a gram. To get about a gram of omega-3, you'd have to take about 3 of those capsules. Okay? So that's one option. You can supplement with fish oil. There's also, now there's different concentrations of fish oil. You can get the extra strength, and I'm a big fan of Costco. I love Costco. Costco has a extra strength 674 milligrams per capsule. So I take less capsules if that's what I'm taking. Now, quality. These are things to look for on the label. Molecular distillation and third-party tested. When it comes to fish oil, and it usually comes from smaller fish, anchovies or sardines, okay? The logic behind it is the smaller the fish, the less toxins they accumulate. And those of you who have looked into fish oil have probably heard, or there are people that say, or studies have shown that there could be mercury contamination in fish oil. I would agree, there probably could be. Molecular distillation is what gets rid of that, okay? And that's what you need to look for. And third-party tested simply means it's a company that says, hey, there's 674 milligrams per capsule. We know that because we sent it to someone else and they tested it and that's what they got. So third-party tested is important. Now, I take liquid fish oil, and Vitacost is a nutritional supplier, and I'm not selling or promoting anything for them, but that's usually where I go. The prices are good for me. I got 4 kids, so I'm worried about money. Prices are good for me, and they got good quality stuff. Their version of liquid fish oil, and yeah, you'd think, it's nasty, it's gross. It's lemon flavored, orange flavored, so it makes it okay, or makes it better, I guess. It's concentrated. It's the reason I like liquid fish oil, keep it in the fridge, is it's bang for your buck, gram for gram. It has more omega-3 and omega-6. In about a $17, $18 bottle through Vitacost, it's third-party tested molecular distillation. They're almost 1.2 grams or 1.1, somewhere around there, per teaspoon of omega-3, all right? And there's 100 servings in there. So that's a lot. So maybe for 30 to 60 days, you got, $20. There is a prescription fish oil out there that is actually used to treat elevated triglycerides, all right? It's called Lovaza. It's pharmaceutical grade, 874 milligrams per dose or per capsule, and it costs you about $4,400 a year per supply. If you go to Costco and spend about $250 to get a year's supply. But fish oil, how much do we need? How much omega-6 and to show you guys a video. It'll probably be, might show you on the next, after when we get back from the next break, talking about fish oil, okay? There's no magic number. There are levels if you choose to take them. And in this video, his name's Dr. Mary Sears. He actually is the book. Anyway, that I've read, there's a guy named Rob Wolf, podcast, read his books, really of is if we consume a traditional Western diet, you can be guaranteed that you're getting a lot more omega-6 than 2 to 3 grams, okay? Essential fatty acids, we don't need a lot. We need a little bit to make all the other fatty acids that our body needs. Okay? Gotta write this down, I forget. All right. This is me. I usually take about 2 to 3 grams a day. When I consume grass-fed meat, wild-caught salmon, I don't take any because I know I'm getting it. I don't take any omega-6 supplementation. I do have, there's some omega-6 in olive oil. I do have olive oil. What we cook with is coconut oil or butter in the house. I'm going to talk about those, and I'll tell you why we do. So I know my omega-6 content is relatively low. Now, things like almonds, cashews, pecans, walnuts, there's going to be omega-6. There's going to be some saturated fat, especially in things like cashews or pistachios. And there's omega-3 in there. But remember, it's in the vegetable or plant world. So if certain nuts are really high in omega-6, I'm not that worried about it because I know I'm going to get only about 10% of that. But in general, I take about 2 or 3 grams of omega-3 a day, and not every single day. Now, here is where I use it for medicinal. And in this video, you're going to hear Dr. Barry Sears hear some of the doses, and you're going to hear some of the reasons that they were giving these people the doses and some of the things they were treating. It's fascinating stuff. If I have a really tough workout or if a training session and I know I'm going to be really, really sore and my joints are going to hurt, I take, for the next 2 or 3 days, upwards of 7 to 8 grams of fish oil because of its anti-inflammatory properties. Very potent anti-inflammatory properties, but you got to take larger doses if you want that, okay? Fish oil, Dr. Barry Sears will talk about how you use it to treat ADHD. ADHD is rampant in kids now. It is one of drug categories, ADHD medication in kids, it's gone through the roof. One of the things that's going on with ADHD is inflammatory markers that are signaling inflammation in the brain. Where? The frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is where we have short-term memory and attention span. Okay? So it makes sense if we can reduce inflammation, especially in the frontal lobe of the brain, attention span starts returning, short-term memory starts returning. Okay? He treated kids with ADHD with these mega doses. Is there anything bad about taking too much omega-3? I would just, to me, common sense, there's anything bad about taking too much of anything. I would say I'm sure there is. I don't know what the number is. We do know about omega-3. It reduces clotting, okay? And that can be a good thing. It can be used to help prevent cardiovascular disease or heart attacks in certain circumstances. But that can be a bad thing if you are taking too much and you get injured or you're having a surgery. And my doctor knows me. We talk about stuff all the time. And they always remind me, I've had a few surgeries, and they always remind me, they do this, do that, and don't take any fish oil because they know it'll make the bleeding. But I don't take that much. But they don't know that. I do when I'm using it to treat inflammation. And I can tell a difference. I recover faster. I just don't hurt as much. I would rather take that than a whole bunch of ibuprofen. That's me. Okay? No one size fits all. These are just some of the things that I've learned from it. So omega-3, very important for child development, anti-inflammatory properties. We need it. How much? Nobody. 2 to 3 grams is a good number that I heard, but if we're eating healthy meats that aren't commercially raised, I don't see any need to supplement with it. Now, if you want to use it for anti-inflammatory or treating illness or disease, do some research, look into it. I'm sure the dosages would probably be lower, but